So, thing of the week, we're doing going to be a little different. DB's going to go first.
Yes. So since I'm on a bit of a BattleTech kick lately, I've been playing through Mech Warrior 5 Mercenaries.
Oh,
This is a game that came out for multi-platform a few years back, 2019. So it's on. I know it's on PC and Xbox. I would assume it's on PlayStation. It has to be.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
hey,
hey,
D
Dima.
Rhino.
Good to see
Long
you
time no
again.
see.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know the series, I kind of talked about it when I reviewed Razor Fist's fan audiobook a couple weeks back. BattleTech is set in the usually the 31st century, where the great feudalistic houses that control space, using giant war machines known as battle mechs to enforce their will, have been blasting each other, not quite to the Stone Age, but getting close to the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
And so it's a very rich universe where over time they've fleshed out basically everything from the early 21st century through the 32nd century. The stuff in the 32nd century is what they came out with after a new company took over the brand. And it's mostly not as good. But but what was interesting with this game is that the company, the company FASA, who did this game series originally. They also did Shadowrun.
Hmm.
Uh, when they were coming out with games while they owned the license, they always were setting it in kind of whatever was current in the novels and setting at the time. What's been kind of nice about these latter day video games, like we had a long gap between Mech Warrior 4 and 5. We're talking like 2001, 2002 to 2019, is
Wow.
that since they kind of broke that continuous stream of games that they'd had since the 90s, they kind of went back to a time period that is a lot of people's favorites, but has never, to the best of my knowledge, well, Mech Warrior 2 Mercenaries kind of featured this time period, but that's like a DOS game just about,
Oh, jeez.
or early Windows game.
Oof.
Um, So it's been a while. And this is the Succession War era, which is part of that long backslide where everybody's paying people to go stomp each other with mechs.
Ah.
What's funny about Mech Warrior 5 Mercenaries is that with the other Mech Warrior games, they'd usually have, first they'd come out with a mainline game that was more streamlined and just a plot that you'd go through. So, 20 missions or whatever. And then they might have a spin-off Mercenaries game, which the Mercenaries game is you're in charge of a mercenary lance. In BattleTech, a group of 4 mechs is called a lance,
Ah.
and the, you're head of a mercenary lance, and you're going around stomping people for profit.
Ah. And Ninja's here. Good to see you.
Yes, and yeah, hell yeah, Mech Warrior.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think that Mech Warrior 5, which I'd actually remembered hearing about like Xbox 360 era, kind of died had a sort of a, shall we say, uh, development hell. And so it's like they
Ah.
skipped right to the spin-off game, it seems.
Oh. Yeah.
This was made by the same people who did Mech Warrior Online, which is kind of like a free-to-play BattleTech online tournament thing, which has its own problems. I never really got into it, but
Uh,
uh, but let's talk about the game itself. Um, so in the game, you are Warrior Soldierman, who Yarst remember his name.
yeah.
Who he is a mercenary, and his dad is a mercenary, and his dad is killed by evil mercenaries, and so it's time for revenge.
Hmm.
And so you're kind there's 2 types of missions in the game. There's your campaign missions where you advance the storyline, and then there's the kind of insert battle here.
The plot of the plot is most BattleTech. Play it. The plots.
Killing each other in space since the 22nd century or 21st century or so. Yeah, There's a lot of revenge going on throughout the entire inner sphere. Okay,
Ah, yeah.
endless cycles of revenge.
Ah, yeah.
But so you have your campaign missions where you advance the story, and then you have your going out there and making money missions. And let's talk about the positives. The mech gameplay is very satisfying. They've done a good job of making it so that each mech feels a little bit special because in older games you could just completely swap out the entire loadout for whatever the heck you wanted, which
Mm,
has the downside that it makes all a mech becomes is its tonnage and speed, and sometimes you could even adjust the speed.
mm,
In this one, it's like you can only mount certain types of weapons and certain types of hard points, so it gives the mechs more flavor. And it means that you kind of now this also means that some of the cheap things that I would do in previous games don't work anymore. So that's
yeah.
uh, I find it funny. Every review says that your allies are stupid. I didn't really have a problem with that. Um, maybe I'm just don't. Maybe I just have too low of expectations for buddy AI who. I mean, they did their job. They kept the enemy, at bay. They fired shots at the enemy. They killed some of them. So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
although it is noteworthy that like every ton of ammunition in this game has 4 times the number of shots as previous games. Because downside, they spam you with so many enemies. There's so many helicopters and vehicles and tanks and turrets that just pop up all over the place at random just to crank up the difficulty a little bit.
Yeah.
What's uh, Now, as far as the random go make money missions, what I would say is that some of them are not very well thought out.
Mm,
Um, I'm gonna give an analogy. Imagine that you're in real like you're Blackwater in real life, like Blackwater, whatever that mercenary group is called.
yeah, that's right,
I
Blackwater.
think
Yeah.
I think they might have changed their name to try to avoid their bad publicity, but
Yeah.
we'll just go with Blackwater. You're a
Yeah.
Blackwater mercenary company,
Yeah.
and you get this message: Hey, you know, the French have been messing around. We're Germany. The French have been messing around in Denmark, uh, and we need to uh, keep them out of our territory, as though Germany is talking about Denmark like it's their territory.
Yeah.
So it's like there's like certain types of things like, okay, I think you just like each mission is reasonably well balanced, but some of the outside of the universe text or some of the mission text, you go, okay, did you just plug in some Mad Libs? I almost wondered if some of them were AI generated after a while. On the other hand, then you'd hit ones where those are like your bread and butter missions. Then you'd have ones where clearly more effort was put into it. These are like higher value missions, and you'd have little threads. Like there was one where I kind of said, "Am I the baddie?" Because we were trying to like intimidate people into it was like a multi-mission thing. We were trying to intimidate people into leaving behind an ancient Star League relic that they had built their city on, or like letting us like basically we're trying to clear off the locals so they could go mine it for lost technology.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Uh, but what was nice is like when you have like a really unheroic mission like that, yeah, it's like they're usually in sets of threes. The third one will usually have a diverging point where you have your option of realizing you're the baddies
Yeah.
and switching sides, though your rewards tend to decrease a lot.
uh, yeah.
And what was really interesting was that you actually had like you always have this lady who's bossing you around in the games. Although I swear that Mech Warrior 3, it was the dad from Full House was your guy.
Bob Saget.
Not Full House. What was the one with Urkel?
Oh,
Family Matters.
Family Matters. Yeah.
So, basically, but that's neither here nor there. Uh,
Yeah.
so, uh, then you had missions where it's like, wow, this is some deep cuts on the lore. Like, you go, how about this local duke who is always like this? It's like you have House Davian, then you have this like local border region controlled by the Hasek Davians, who are like a branch family, and they're always causing problems for House Davian. And at one point, you do some missions for them, helping them defend against another space nation. And the Duke is like, you know what? You can have these lost technology autocannons because I'd rather give them to warriors who fight than to surrender them to the Science Academy for research. Like that moment was kind of where I turned around on the plot because I stopped doing quite so many of the popcorn missions and started looking for the high value missions because those had more interesting things going on.
Yeah.
The other thing I really appreciated was that, uh, you know what, it's a 4-year-old game. And most people wouldn't get why these are spoilers. So they,
Yeah.
they basically had the Space Catholic Church, which was called Comstar. It's like a mix of Space AT&T and Space Catholic Church because weirdos who worship technology as a cult. And part of their belief was that they had to restrict who had access to high technology for the good of humanity because clearly they couldn't be trusted with the high tech after, centuries of bombing each other back into the Stone Age.
Yeah.
So it turns out the bad mercenaries who killed your dad were being employed by Comstar, who were basically doing what you were doing in some of those missions, rushing in, blasting away cities that happened to be sitting on top of Star League relics so that Comstar could go in and secure them.
Uh,
And but they had a nice mix of mechs in here. The missions were fun enough. The gameplay is very satisfying. It's a little bit repetitive. I kind of wish I could. I kind of wish I could see what a Mech Warrior 5 would have been like, where it just had more of a focused campaign mission.
uh,
Although they do have expansion packs for Mech Warrior 5 Mercenaries that look like they're more focused campaign missions. So I might actually try one of those just to see what they're like. So would I
huh.
recommend the game? If you have any like passing interest in Mech Warrior, yes, because it's very rich thing of it. If you don't, you might find it kind of repetitive because you're not going to get the same sort of all these deep cut references that I did.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's on Game Pass. If you have Game Pass, it's on PC and Xbox, so it's worth a shot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ninja Joe says Comstar's ultimate goal is to have everyone beat each other to a pulp and take over the inner sphere under Comstar.
Yes, their enlightened rule to bring back the Star League.
Ah.
Because basically they are amusingly enough the shattered remnants of Starleague Communications Company or Starleague Communications. So it is basically Space Catholic Church keeping technology to themselves and making sure that others don't get access to things they don't like them to get access to.
Gotcha.
Now, in an unrelated recommendation, if you prefer reading about Stompy Mechs to if you prefer reading about Stompy Mechs to playing with Stompy Mechs, this is Warrior on Guard here from the 80s. This is 1998, but this was the original edition that I had. Uh, is the place to start because it isn't the first story, but it gets you up to speed and it's where a lot of interesting stuff happens.
Okay.
Written by Michael A. Stackpole, who also did the Star Wars X-Wing novels.
Oh. Very cool.
He actually got the job because of his BattleTech work, so not since they were his first published novels.
Yeah. Nice.
But anyhow, that's enough of me talking about giant stompy mechs.
Okay.
Speaking of things from the 80s,
See, yes. So my thing of the week is a new series on Netflix, which just kind of showed up. Not a whole lot of fanfare, not a whole lot of promotion or anything. It's FUBAR, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Believe this is believe it's the first ever TV show he's ever been in.
you
Because
mentioned that. Yeah, I can't think of any time I heard about an Arnold TV show.
no, he's only ever done movies. I guess it's just the changing landscape of entertainment these days. But yeah, so So this show, and for those of you who probably don't know, FUBAR is an acronym. I'll keep it YouTube friendly. It's effed up beyond all recognition.
Old World War II slang, I believe.
Yes, yeah, The first time I ever heard it, was in Band of Brothers, um, and yeah, you hear it a lot in the military. But yeah, so Schwarzenegger plays Luke Brenner. I think that's right, Brenner, CIA agent. He's about to retire. Goes on one last mission before he's retiring, and he's divorced, but he has two grown children, a son and a daughter. And he's so when he retires, his grand plan is to he buys a ship, which is it's like a little not really. It's somewhere between a boat and a yacht. It's kind of like this one, little sailboat things.
Okay.
And his grand plan is to win his ex-wife back. And his cover, by the way, is as he owns a business that sells gym equipment. And I always tell I've mentioned this before the show with DB. This show is basically like the unofficial sequel to True Lies. But anyway, what happens is he gets called in by his handler. His name is Barry, and he's a African American, real nerdy, big afro. And he calls him in and says, "Hey, we got a situation. We got an operative we lost contact with in Guyana, and we need to send you down there to get him." And he goes down there. He goes down to Guyana, and of course the place is run by this drug lord, who's the son of another drug lord that Arnold's character killed like 25 years before. And the son, he actually Arnold looked after him, like he paid to have him go to school in London, and and all this, basically just made sure that he wasn't wanting for anything. Of course, he just follows the guy just follows in his dad's footsteps.
Yeah. Now I'm going to interrupt you slightly. As soon as you started talking about that, him having a partner and it being old Arnold, I immediately thought of this McBain bit with the you keep eating them hot links, you're gonna die. Come on, live a little. Not me, pal. I'm retiring in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Gonna go in this sailboat.
So yeah.
Although it's not actually showing up on the screen here. It might just be only showing. It's the McBain bit where he shouts Mendoza.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. There are a bunch of they make a bunch of references to his old movies.
Okay.
So his daughter has a boyfriend, and her boyfriend teaches kindergarten, and he's like, "Oh, you teach kindergarten." And then there's another scene where he's like, he says "choppa" a couple of times.
Of course.
He made it, but anyway, so he goes down to Guyana, and then uh, uh, he meets the operative, and lo and behold, the operative is his daughter. And his daughter is played by I don't know the actress's name, but she was Phoenix, the lady, the female fighter pilot in Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, I thought for some reason my mind went to that awful Game of Thrones actress who was Jean Grey in that last Fox X-Men movie.
Oh no. well, yeah, Phoenix, yeah.
Also, those Top Gun actors are getting around.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. But yeah, so that's the other part of it too. Is like he's just completely shocked, and that his daughter is also in the CIA, and of course he thinks he has this image of his daughter being, oh, she's a good girl, and she doesn't smoke and she doesn't swear. And then the first time he sees her, she's in this like cage fight and beating this guy up, and she puts him in an arm bar, and she's like, "How's my ass smell?"
Little Susie grew up.
Little Susie grew up. Yeah. uh, but yeah, so the rest of the series is basically just the two of them having to work together along with a couple of other CIA agents, and and the handler, the Barry, his name is Barry, and it's a little weird because like she calls him, the daughter calls him Uncle Barry, even though like he's like our age, he's in his late
Huh.
30s, and she's like 20 and she's in her late 20s, and of course he explains it that like, well, I was 21 when they met and she was only 11, and he says, and black don't crack. uh but yeah, so it's basically just like the whole show is them trying to stop this the bad guy, and trying to, awkward. um and trying to nab the bad guy while also nabbing, trying to figure out their personal relationships, and the two, their, Arnold and his daughter trying to figure out their relationship, and Arnold trying to impart his wisdom onto her, and her, kind of like ignoring him at first, but then kind of saying, oh, maybe he actually kind of knows what he's talking about. And but it's a fun, it's funny, it's an action comedy series. It's
Yep.
basically what it is.
How long of an episode or how long of a series is it?
There are 8 episodes. Each episode runs like 50 minutes to an hour.
Okay, so pretty full season.
Oh yeah, yeah. And they I will say, light little spoiler, they did leave it open for a season 2. So
All
I
right.
don't know if it's going to get a season 2 or not. It'll be interesting to see. But yeah.
That always strikes me as like such a risk. I mean, like, for example, making Star Trek Picard more than a one and done always struck me as like, what do you do if Patrick Stewart has a bad fall?
Yeah. Yeah, or he gets something, or yeah.
Yeah. Although, if the roids were going to kill Arnold, they already would have.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's still in good shape. I mean, he's still doing all he's not as heavy in the action scenes as he was when he was younger, but I
Hmm.
mean, he can still move really well, and
Yep.
yeah.
Though, it occurs to me that we have to have a season two because he has to stop Mendoza from distributing that swank, which is 10 times more addictive than marijuana.
Yes. Any May jokes in the show? Uh, I don't remember there being any.
That would probably be too close to home.
Yeah, well, he does make a reference to like Danny DeVito, and oh god, there was another thing he made a reference to. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, there's he makes this bunch of they make references to his stuff all the time. Yeah,
Oh,
but
So,
yeah,
well, it sounds like a fun time, and yeah, it's kind of a weird show to just drop out of nowhere.
yeah, and it's yeah, very very odd, but yeah, but if you
You
got
know,
Netflix, give it a watch.
it occurs to me this is like the ongoing rivalry between Stallone and Schwarzenegger. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I got myself 2 Paramount Plus series. I've got one on Netflix. Suck it. 20 times as many people would watch it on there. Because
Yeah.
Stallone, of course, has Tulsa King, and now he has that one reality show about him and his daughters,
Oh, jeez.
who are all foxes,
Oh, yeah.
surprisingly.
Yeah.